I see that Andy was with us. Andy, it's your turn now, as we have our age group update, talking about some of our youth and moving forward with some of our specific conversations on our age groups. But Andy, our age group director, you can take it away.
Thanks, Brent. So I think, some points that I wanted to highlight is we've continued to see growth at the Olympic style at the age group level, right? A few years ago, there was just a handful of kids following along with their older brothers and sisters. And this year for Kids Nationals, we had the most representation that we've had, at least in the last 5 years that some of us have been going. There's good representation from all around the state. There are a number of clubs participating in the Olympic styles, and I think you're seeing that through the whole state. Everywhere from the South Shore with some of the Riptide work that's being done to the work at New England Gold, some of the work that Don McNeil's doing, and of course some of the work that out west with Cruz, and the work in the Merrimack Valley with Matt Daney. So you're seeing that work and education and classes supporting all levels for us, right? So we had 5 freestyle All-Americans this year and 6 Greco All-Americans. There were a couple of multiple placers in both divisions. We had 3 of them. So that's a good success as we move forward. Looking into next year, as we are looking for every opportunity to continue to grow, we have targeted the Northeast regionals. We've got targets obviously for our local MWA programs. There's discussions of maybe sending some of the cadet teams that Matt Daney will talk a little bit about, as well as a trip back out to Wisconsin for Kids Nationals. If you are interested, there'll be some information at our various state tournaments on those programs that are offering freestyle and Greco. Speaking, just from the perspective of the growth of the kids that have been involved, it's really a great opportunity to keep your athletes wrestling in the off season in a light, fun-hearted way. At the end of the day, it's just wrestling. So it's a good opportunity to keep them wrestling. We did get a generous donation from the Mass Hall of Fame for some of the travel expenses for the coaches. This year, we brought 4 coaches out to Kids Nationals, and all the transportation costs were covered by the Mass Hall of Fame's contribution. So I'd like to publicly thank them for their continued support of the age group division in the Olympic styles. That's it.
Awesome. Does anyone have any questions or comments about the age group update?
Great job.
All right. So I have our next one is, I think Joe's with us. I see him, he's on, is our women's wrestling update presented by Joe Nugent. He's our women's director. And obviously you can see, Bjork Gwigny's in here too. She did a lot of work with the women as well, but as our director, Joe has just done a fabulous job working with our women's growth. And you're going to see a lot of the things that he has to say. As we all know, women's wrestling is growing rapidly. And luckily Massachusetts is on the forefront of that and is doing a great job. So I just want to present with Joe Nugent. Thank you so much, and take it away.
Yeah, thanks, Brett. Just to continue on that line of thinking, this is definitely one of the fastest growing sports in America, right? So we have continuous growth around in this area too. In the past, we've sort of had to do things very regionally because we didn't have enough volume of girls to kind of represent the state, but we're definitely seeing a change in that. We're seeing a lot more girls in the practice rooms, and we're hoping to get them out and competing with us at a lot of these national events. So I'm kind of going to break this down between a little bit of folk style and freestyle. So on the folk style side of things, we're still continuing to promote and advocate for women's opportunities, whether it be in boys events like the Prep New Englands or Prep Nationals, the MIA states. We're always going to be there, promoting to have that girls track available for them. And then, also locally on the folk style side, promoting women's only events as well. So you just saw on the schedule, we have the Girls New Englands that will take place again this year, and the Phillips Andover tournament that runs every year. And then nationally is where we're really seeing a lot of development, on the freestyle side. We had 2 main trips this year that we took. We took a trip out to Texas for the World Team Trials, and we took our team to Fargo. This picture that you see in the background, that's our Fargo team. So it was great to have so many girls traveling together as a team. And we had great success at these events. We had our first World Team member with Jackie Daney and Fargo finalist. She's also Pan Am champ. We had 2 Fargo All-Americans with Jackie and Daniela. And we're starting to see things really materialize on the college level next. So, when these girls are working hard and they're trying to get through their high school seasons and these post seasons. So the girls' primary freestyle season is in the spring. So they're on the mat year round. They're going through the folk style seasons. They're going through the freestyle seasons. And, what's the light at the end of the tunnel? And we're starting to see it materialize with some college opportunities. So if you're paying attention to the press, you saw that Iowa has announced that they're going to have a women's team. My daughter Marisol is down at UNC trying to establish a program. And even around here, we have local programs developing with clubs at Harvard, Northeastern, MIT, with, Bior leading the charge there. So we had a great 2021. And I think, we're going to plan to take these same teams to these same events in the upcoming year. So we're really looking forward to adding more girls to the teams and really giving them that opportunity to travel with us and broaden their horizons. I'll take any questions if anyone has any.
I think one of the best things we can really try to do this year at the high school level, Joe, is to, obviously I expect to see, at least 1 or 2 more additional high school girls tournaments, but I think we should be encouraging all the high school coaches and things like that when they have girls in the various events that, let them compete in the normal bracket and then create an additional division just to have the girls go head to head afterwards, so that they're also creating, paperwork for their end of season to make the state girls tournament have even more validity, because they've got more competition in season as well with each other. So give them that opportunity to really compete in season, both, with girls as well as in the normal bracket, in their mixed brackets as well.
Are there issues with the
Yeah,
MIA
Jesse,
in
do you
terms of
mean
competition
freestyle or
limits?
folk style?
Sorry,
Okay.
Colin, why don't you go first?
Go
We'll
ahead, John.
I just inquiring to Desi to follow up. Do you mean freestyle or folk style side tournament?
No, I meant folk style, because the MIA is a folk style season, not a freestyle.
Okay,
season.
yeah, just clarifying. That's all I wanted. Yeah.
Yeah, the one thing I'd like to add to what Desi said, because I didn't mention it the first time around, but I would really encourage anybody that has girls in their programs. It's great that they're in there and they're practicing with the guys and with the teams, but if they're looking for opportunities to get out and practice with peers and girls, there are those opportunities out there. So please get them in contact with us so we can get them into these practice rooms and have these practice with their peers.
Absolutely. Ed, you had something too?
I was wondering if the dual track might not run afoul of the MIA limits on competitions in a single day, if you have girls competing both in the men's or the men's bracket plus their
You
own.
can manage it. I'm sure that it will.
What I was getting. Yeah.
I'm sure that it will. And you can, if you know beforehand, you know what's coming, you can make decisions.
Yeah, and we're always looking for opportunities to talk to the organizers, right? Because there are ways to manage those things, and the MIA has been great working with us, and we want to continue that. So at all levels, the people that are planning the prep tournaments have been working with us, the youth tournaments, and the MIA. So we just want to keep those discussions open, and continue to find opportunities for competition.
Hey, Joe, what age range, when you're talking about the girls here, do you mean youth or high school or both?
Yeah, so with the girls, they typically will compete. If we take a dual meet team, it's typically K to 12. So it's a little different than you would see with the boys, where you have the youth and then the high school. And that again just comes back to volume. If you're going to get 15 weight classes, you really need to go, from 65 to like 185. So it tends to be a broader spectrum, and it can be K to 12 for the most part. But when we have these tournaments, we'll be separating them by youth and their age groups in high school.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Anything else? All right. Moving on
I would add, sorry, Brett, I would add to John's question there, not just on the girls. I hope you're also starting to see the shift in our organization as well, right? That we don't just stop at 8th grade, right? That we're really trying to look after, all age groups within the state.
Moving on to that, we have our Olympic style wrestling update. It's presented by Matt Daney, our freestyle director, and we also have input from Cruz Franco, who's our Greco-Roman wrestling director. So I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to you guys, but Matt, you can take it away.
Thanks, Brett. Hi, guys. Sorry, my camera's not working here, but yeah, I just want to touch base on the successful season we had last year. Despite the coming off a COVID year, the numbers were surprisingly still well. We had a very strong number of 16U and junior participation at Fargo, which is always nice. But the true positive side is the growth of all the attendance throughout the state. The people traveling to other freestyle and Greco tournaments. It's really encouraging for our results that are coming for our Olympic style wrestling. This year we were fortunate to have 2 junior All-Americans with Isaac Polino and Tristan Kemp. Tristan Kemp was actually the first Massachusetts native to go become a double All-American in freestyle and Greco. So that's a huge accomplishment. He's gone on to wrestle for West Virginia right now. So going forward, guys, our goals are always to continue to challenge ourselves and grow, right? So obviously next year, my goal this year, we sent about 35 boys to Fargo. My goal is for next year to bring 50. So, but it's going to take everyone, right? It's going to take this continual growth of Olympic style wrestling through Massachusetts. I think with all the clubs doing such great work with it this year, we had like the same issue as we have at venues. We have a hard time having practice and training camp. So we had a great support from all the clubs in Massachusetts this year. All our training camps were at different clubs throughout the state, which was awesome. It helped out with traveling, and I think it exposed every area of the state with freestyle and Greco wrestling, which is awesome. With my future plans, guys, it's continue to grow. And next year, my plan is to continue our tournament series again. So I want to have our freestyle state tournament, a Greco state tournament. That'll be during the springtime. So that season, that calendar, I'm going to work on and hopefully get posted sooner. But also stress the importance of Northeast Regionals. Northeast Regionals is a qualifying tournament for Fargo, so it helps you with placement. And then a great tournament that we either cadet or junior duels. It's a tournament we're going to look at pushing this year. It's a great opportunity for the kids to get 10 matches out there at a very high level. But yeah, that's really odd. I don't know what Cruz has for you guys.
Hey guys, how we doing? Thank you for being your time with us tonight. My name is Cruz Frank. For you guys who don't know me, I'm a part of the board of directors, the advisor, like Brett had said, and I'm also Greco-Roman director. Like Matt said, this year was a very difficult year, but we came together as a state, an entire state, across the board. I got to work with a lot of great people this year, and I'm very, very happy to be a part of Massachusetts wrestling. Like Matt said, there's a big future in Massachusetts wrestling. Now that we've united, we come as one. With the freestyle and the Greco, especially with the numbers of the girls growing, Fargo is just going to keep growing and growing for the state of Massachusetts. 50 is definitely a goal, but as a Greco guy, I would like to see not only 50 wrestlers go, but I would like to see more Greco grow as well. I feel that with the talent that we have in the state of Mass and with the participation of the clubs, the coaches, I feel that within the next 2 or 3 years, like Matt said, our goal, it should definitely be bringing 50 to 75 people within the next 5 years, hopefully 100 kids out to Fargo. But that doesn't happen overnight. That happens with the help of everybody, every sectional coming together. This year, like Matt said, we pretty much had training camps, but they were all throughout the state of Massachusetts, which actually grew and got kids who didn't know anything about Greco or freestyle, gave them a look. Even some coaches that are not used to it, that are from those clubs there, they got to see now. So now there's a lot of talk about, all right, what's this Olympic style season happening? And we're going out to Fargo this year. I think we had a fantastic showing, across the board, boys and girls in all divisions. I'm excited to continue to work with Team Mass and the Fargo Olympic season, as well with folk style. I'm just excited right now to be going to my first Massachusetts wrestling tournament this upcoming week at Natick. So that's a good sign. And hopefully in the near future to keep going, because I for all the setbacks that we dealt with the last year and a half, I think we really, really had great representation this past summer out in Fargo. I really do. And that was with the help of everybody coming together. So thank you very much, guys, for making it happen. I really enjoyed it.
Awesome.
Hey guys, it's just from an officiating standpoint, is there something between Greco? This is Colin. Sorry if I'm not on video. Is there something we can do to promote, from an officiating standpoint, to promote the freestyle and Greco program? Because you guys have made leaps and bounds, and it's very from an outsider looking in, it's very appreciated. Is there anything that you could suggest that we could do, either or even from a fundraising standpoint?
Andy, do you want that or?
Sure, I'll take that. So there's a number of things, right? So I think, Colin, you're right. As we continue to grow, if we're going to be serious about it, we need people to step up and become learned in the freestyle and Greco rules. We had 2 officials out at Fargo this year. One's on the call this evening, Ed Hanley and George Kakavas. That's simply not enough, right? If we're going to run local tournaments properly, we need 3 man mechanics or 3 official mechanics. So we need people to step up. There's a number of programs from USA Wrestling that we've been in touch with. We did one a couple of years ago when we hosted our Holliston tournament, where they came and did some training the evenings before. So we'll look to do those types of programs as the spring season comes. But really, we need people to step up. It's not difficult to become a USA Wrestling official. You go onto the website. For those of us that are already wrestling leaders, there's a simple checkbox to become an official, and then you get put into the system, right? And so we'll be looking to grow our numbers so that we have, you come in as an M3 and progress to an M1. And I think there's Ed, you'll probably know this better than I, but I think there's only one M1 in our state, and that's you. So actually Scott Honecker might be as well.
Yeah,
So
and George Kakavas will become one relatively soon too, I think.
Yeah.
There's 2 potentially. There's potentially 3.
So so we've got to get people interested in it, right? So just like Brett kind of opened the meeting up with, there's a number of volunteer positions. We need volunteers to step up and be officials.
So if I could offer a suggestion here, one of the things you might want to do I realize mandates are not popular these days, but a requirement that a club to compete have a member who's an official. You know, you need the coaches, you need the athletes, you need officials to run a program. Find somebody with thick enough skin in your club and he becomes the official, but all the clubs have to provide one.
That's actually not a bad idea. I'm not a member of this board. I don't have an affiliation to anything, but perhaps to become a USA affiliated membership club of this organization, you have to also provide an official. It could be. You could write it into your bylaws.
That's a good way to eliminate half the clubs involved. That's all that'll do.
No,
Cut out half the clubs
but
that go.
it's as simple. Is this? That's Paul. Paul, I think I recognize your voice, but it's as simple as like me latching on to the next club, the club next door, and then another good sanctified official latching on with them, just to provide them
Yeah, I
some sort of
understand
thing.
the sentiment. I think it's a great sentiment. I don't know if we're there yet. You know,
It's not realistic.
That's fair. That's fair. That's fair.
yeah, I think it's a great idea. Like I do. I think it's a great idea. Anything that's going to get more people in the door. But I see a couple hands raised, Matt and Joe. But Matt, if you want to jump in.
Yeah. So also, I mean, it's an idea that I brought up before, and as a freestyle director, that possibly doing either rules videos or technique videos and posting that on our website. So just like intro stuff, not really deep technique or deep into the rule book or strategy stuff, but brief ruling videos that maybe like an intro coach or someone getting into it might be able to just turn on, like go to our website. And of course, all the stuff's on YouTube too, but something that will be on our website. Maybe we can, if I'd like to hear you guys' feedback, if you guys would be interested in that, just the brief technique stuff and rules videos that we can post on our website.
That is already available to you on Facebook. Tim Pearson from Virginia has done a tremendous job
great.
with a lot of this stuff.
Just drawing more interest and more people to our website too would be awesome.
The other thing is too, Matt, you know this more than anybody, is the freestyle rules change twice during a week. So
keeping people educated with that stuff. I think it's something that maybe we can do that next spring.
Yeah,
and I think just to kind of sum it up, Brett highlighted a couple of positions that were open, right? Officials director and education director. And it seems like the conversation that we were just having is ripe for those people in those positions to step up and put those in, right? So that's why they're so sorely needed.
Joe, I see your hands raised if you want to jump in.
Yeah, Brett, I don't want to steal anyone's thunder, but I heard a reference there to fundraising, and I know Andy mentioned earlier about the Hall of Fame sort of helping to sponsor some of the event. So I was going to mention that, unless you're planning to mention that coming up.
I know Andy mentioned it. The Hall of Fame, obviously, I mean, we might as well talk about it. The amazing work the Hall of Fame's been doing. You guys got an event coming up soon, right?
Yeah, so this Saturday the 13th is the Hall of Fame banquet, and that's the primary fundraiser for the Mass chapter of the Hall of Fame. And the reason I wanted to kind of cross promote that here is because the Hall of Fame and the Mass Wrestling Association have developed an incredible partnership. And Andy referenced it about, how the Hall of Fame has come up with some money to help pay for some of the travel, for some of the coaches to take that burden off the kids. But the fundraising for the initiative really goes hand in hand with the fundraising that's done by the MWA as well, right? So what we've done there is we've created a matching program, and if we can find other groups that would be willing to step in and look to raise funds and kind of match, our whole philosophy is to keep this sport as available as possible to all kids, to make these trips as available to possible as many kids as we can. So if people are out there thinking about fundraising ideas, we'd love to continue that conversation, because we've been able to sort of establish a good baseline, between the Hall of Fame and Mass Wrestling of how we can kind of structure those fundraising programs and allocate those dollars to really keep the costs of these national trips down, whether it be, sending the girls to Texas or the boys to Fargo or the kids nationals. So it's really been a collaborative effort on that front.
Absolutely. Is there anything else on this topic? We kind of hit about 17 different topics in that, which is great. I love the input. I love everything. So if not, I do want to introduce our president, Bjork Wigney. Bjork is, she has about 17,000 different titles as to how she's involved in wrestling. I don't know if everyone's noticed, but she's slowly taking over. I'm going to blow up her spot by saying that. But basically, she was heavily involved with Boston Youth Wrestling, being one of their main leaders there. She is now the CEO of Beat the Streets New England. I know that she does a lot of work nationally. She's our chairperson for USA Wrestling. She does a ton of work. This is someone that honestly should be recognized more often for the amazing work that she's been doing. So I want to introduce our president, Bjork Wigney.
Thanks, Brett. Thanks, everyone. I think you even come up with Bjork on this call as well.
Yeah, I do. I wanted to look good for the meeting, so I used the picture.
Yeah, so as Brett mentioned, I'm very fortunate to be one of the few people, not only in Massachusetts, but I would say in this country, that wrestling is my full-time job. It's my career, and I get to be involved in a lot of different areas of wrestling, not only at the youth level through my work with Beat the Streets all over New England and kind of helping, advocate for wrestling opportunities in and out of our schools and community centers and trying to create youth leagues, but also helping high school varsity programs get started. So in Boston alone, we were able to bring, Excel Academy as a varsity program, BLA, and we actually have the coach from BLA here today, which is pretty exciting, Jose Valenzuela, to bring another high school varsity program. So just as we see these issues happening across our college levels, where programs are getting dropped and then brought back in, and our girls programs are really helping advocate and bring back those collegiate opportunities, where we're doing the good work here at the youth level and high school level to make sure that we're feeding into these collegiate programs. Another big thing that I'm really grateful for is the opportunity to travel on behalf of the state. So big part of my job is going to all these USA Wrestling meetings, which tend to happen weekly, attending meetings during the day. A lot of our board, as you see, everyone here has a full-time job above and beyond wrestling. And so I like to take it on to make sure that I'm attending as many meetings and bringing back the information to this group so they can just focus on creating the opportunities here in our state and really building what the next steps are to get our kids to where we want them to be. One thing that I've started working through recently is D1 wrestling opportunities for our young women. So right now, and I see Ed every Tuesday as well, that we're coaching at a central location where we have, Harvard, Brown, MIT, and Northeastern, bringing those young women together, and then working with Jay Weiss at Harvard to open up the RTC to have not only those young women attend, but make sure that all of our RTC qualified athletes are able to get in there for the New England RTC. So really a lot of my job is just advocating, making sure that Massachusetts is being represented at the national level, and then coming back with information so that we can make our best decisions here locally, and then going out and supporting the rest of New England so that way our kids have the best competition in our region, and then we're representing ourselves to the best of our abilities nationwide and beyond. So please join the board because we need more of you to help with these things. I'd love to give up some of these positions at some point. I think the more people we put in positions to lead across the different levels, from, like I said, right now I work from K all the way through our, national and world team members. So the more people get involved in our state, the more recognition we get at the national level, the more opportunities come back to us here.
Bjork, this is a great opportunity for you for us to talk about too. one of the things that we actually mentioned, and you said this pretty strongly in our last meeting, is we don't necessarily need just coaches. It's wrestling leaders, right? And it's people that you feel are heavily involved. If you have a parent that is heavily involved in your team that you think could help the state of Massachusetts, I think we all know those people out there. I don't say this just to say it, but we need more women involved as well. Like, if we want to see the growth of women's wrestling, we need more women leaders to step up and grow that type of that specific growth. So this is where we're also asking you for help to volunteer people to get involved, right? If you specifically are a little too stretched out and you can't do the 1900 things that Bjor's doing, maybe someone else that can. And can step up and help us out. And so that's one of the things that we're looking at is, yes, there are board positions that are needed. Yes, coaches are great, and we're obviously very involved, but it's everyone that you think that could help us. And so that's one of the biggest things that we want. We want you to be a wrestling leader. And that's why I think USA Wrestling names it that way too, because you're a leader amongst our sport, and we're looking for those people. But all right. So we'll finish off this meeting. We're at the last leg here, if everyone's all right with that. Sorry, I'm flipping through now all the way to the end.
Hey, Brett, Stephen Henry. I got a couple of questions regarding the USA fees this year and whether or not they're going to, USA Wrestling is going to kick back a little bit like they did last year. I saw they gave us about $2,700 or some such number that was on Todd's report. So can you tell me what the team's fee are going to be, what the coaches' fees are going to be, what the wrestlers' fees are going to be, and whether or not we're going to get a kickback this year from USA Wrestling?
So I'll cover some of that. So we didn't, the only reason actually if we had the numbers from the year before, the kickback, as you put it there, was even larger. The number was down last year because our number of members was down significantly last year. So I believe USA Wrestling membership costs actually went up a little bit this year from national level. And we went from our limited folk style, which was $15, and we got back 5 of that, I believe goes up to, from the state of Massachusetts, will go up to 20, and I believe we'll be seeing 7 of that back. So I think we see 7 of that back. And then, do you already remember the other 2 numbers?
Yes. So basically it's going to be, like Desi said, limited is $20. The full membership is $45. And then there's that high performance membership, which you're looking at, those who are traveling at the international level, and that is $110. And so we made it because USA Wrestling raised their prices for the entire organization. So this isn't something that we just choose as a state. USA Wrestling gives us the minimum and the maximum that you can select to charge. And so we are just at the tier where we can get that initial kickback to make sure that we're able to fund the teams as we travel and fund opportunities. So that's what those prices are at.
So the 2 areas where we see the most kickback from, basically, our
wrestlers.
Most of our memberships are limited folk style, and we see $7 back from each one of those, and our full membership went up from 40 to 45, and that we were getting, I believe, 28 of. And now I think I think we kept it basically at the same amount we get our kickback at, is $28 or $29. So what we do still have it that was guaranteed to us in perpetuity is that there is no cost for chartering your clubs. So that doesn't cost anything. And sanctioning our tournaments does not cost us anything. Those are the 2 things that USA gave us in perpetuity. Everything else is based on what the national membership costs are. So the limited folk style of $15 was not guaranteed to us to always be $15. This year, it actually, as prices everywhere have increased because of lots of various reasons, USA Wrestling was forced to increase their prices, and we match.
Desi, does that any style of wrestling in they're not going to charge you?
So the part that you don't get charged for is the club, chartering your club. So that doesn't.
But
that has
if you
nothing to do
host a
with style.
tournament,
So sanctioning the tournament, that's correct. Doesn't matter the style.
And I just want to add, Desi, that is a step that a lot of the clubs have been missing. And I think it's just, on us to make sure we're educating everyone about that when you do host an event, make sure that you sanction the event so that your secondary insurance is active for that. And it's, again, it's free. It's simple. It takes, you'll get approved within less than 24 hours. If there's ever an event that's happening and you're like, oh, it's happening tomorrow and I need it sanctioned, you can also just shoot us a quick email to let us know you've put it into the system so we can get it going for you. But that is something that we as a state, because it's only our third year using USA Wrestling, a step that we are often skipping, but make sure that we stay on top of sanctioning our events.
When
And
we
obviously, if
sanction
you
those,
are-
do the all the teams that participate or all the kids that wrestle have to be have USA cards and so on?
If you sanction an event with USA, yes, everyone there has to have a USA card.
Okay.
So for our postseason events, we obviously sanction ours, and everyone uses everyone needs a USA card.
Was there anything else, Steve?
No, I would just, I didn't hear that. I didn't see those numbers on the website. Just Brett, I don't know why I wasn't on any of the lists. I don't know how many teams are registered. Maybe we got to reach out and make sure that more youth teams in particular are registered, because we only have 29 people that are listening today, according to my little computer here. And, I know that we've got over 80, 85 teams in youth in Massachusetts. And, I'm sure there's another 10 or 12, 15 that like Fay and Fessenden and some of the prep schools. And
So, I mean, Stephen, I
youth
can tell
programs
you,
in Saugus and Lynn that beyond.
I can tell you that 1,800 emails went out and were received and delivered. I think one of the things you're dealing with is the fact that people just have a lot of meetings and people are very busy, right? And short of us individually calling everyone and their mother, telling them, hey, there's a meeting tonight. People don't read stuff.
I think that calling people and making them aware of it is better than emails. And if you have 9 people on the board and 5 directors, if everybody took 10 or 15 people and made an effort to call them, that it would get out to the 100 or so teams. And also coaches change. You send out 1,800 emails and a lot of those coaches are not coaching anymore because they're just dads and their kids have matured and gone on. So I think personal contact is better than the emails.
Steve, I think you bring up a couple really great points. And the first one is communication, right? Is what are the best ways for us to communicate? And I think that's a great point. And the thing is I think whether it be a board of directors like us or anyone, communication is one of the hardest things to do in any organization. Getting to your constituents or your members or whatever, it's one of the hardest things to do. And so I agree with you. I think phone calls would be the most direct and easiest, or direct and hardest way to get to people, right? But it's the most effective if we had everyone's phone number and took the time to call everybody. I don't disagree with you on that. I think it's hard to ask to do that. I think it's hard to do that, but I understand your sentiment there. There is I think we need to get to the point where people are looking for our information. People are looking for us. And I think that that's something that we can do better as well. That's a part of it of, maybe marketing or even being more consistent with our messaging, I think is really important for us. Those are things that we're looking to improve and grow. And I think as we do that, our communications are to start to improve and grow. And I think people will start to use and utilize our messaging more often if we're more consistent. And I think you're going to see that. This board has been very good recently as far as being very consistent and hardworking. And communication is one of the things that personally I think is one of my targets and one of the things that I'm going to be working on. So I agree with you, Steve, is that communication is one of the hardest things that we do. But I agree that we need to do better and we need to keep getting better at it. So I agree with you on that. The second part of it is, I think your point about coaches dropping off, right, is I think that this is something that we've talked about a few times now, is one of the biggest problems. And it happened really badly this year. You noticed, I think if you look around, there's a lot of programs that don't have as many coaches or have lost their program, right? And one of the things that I think we need to do really well, and this is again back to that like education director, back to, you know, getting people involved, is we need to build ways for people to educate them on building better programs, not just being a good coach, not just being a head coach that does everything for your team. I think oftentimes one of the things we do is we decide that we're going to work hard and we're going to work harder than anybody else. And we're going to do more than anyone's ever done. And then what ends up happening is, like you said, Steve, is your kid graduates and you then become a dad again, or, you know, you become a parent and you move on and you can't give the time that you used to give to a program that, you know, one, doesn't put food on your table and, you know, oftentimes feels thankless, right? Those are the things that we need to do a better job of, is building a program and educating people on ways to do that, and educating people on ways, how do you give other people responsibilities so that when you walk away, the program doesn't die. And to be honest with you, I almost did that this year, right? Is I almost lost my program because of that. And so I think, again, to your point, like coaches changes, you know, things happen. And again, that's another education part. That's another part to what we're trying to build and grow and develop, so that those things don't happen. And I think as the state starts to develop in those ways, communication, programs surviving, programs growing and developing, like we're looking at that. And those are the things that we're actually growing and developing. Does that help the point a little bit?
No, I agree. It's something that I think the board needs to work on. And, you know, even the website that I keep looking at, it doesn't have 80 teams listed in it, and that's probably because 80 teams haven't registered as a sanctioned team, and they should all, and their telephone and contact information should be there, and it should be updated, and you know, that's a responsibility of the coaches or last year's coaches, and because it hasn't happened.
It's a live website, so as the season turns over in August, there's nobody listed on it, and then as teams start to register, their contact information is listed again. So the minute you sanction the minute you charter your club, you're automatically listed on the website.
Yeah.
And we should encourage everybody to register annually.
So you guys heard it from Steve himself. Go register your teams if you haven't done it yet. You know,
I bet you these 24 guys have all done that.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's why they're here.
So let's look at the things to consider. Two of the things that we want to do is get our members more involved. As you guys know, our membership goes not only just from the kindergarten to 8th grade. We want our high school coaches involved as well. And so two of the things that we've been talking about is talking about our age group designations to follow not just USA Wrestling, but realistically wrestling across the country and around the world, and have different age group designations, which is 6U, 8U, 10U, 12U, and 15U. And those would be our tournaments. Those would be how we decide who's wrestling where, is by those designations. And so I want to open these things up. I'm going to open up first, talk about these two things, and then kind of open up to discussion, because I think there's a lot to talk about here. The other thing we want to consider is sponsorships for tournament series and state organizations. Basically, you saw our financial breakdown. You saw the things that we tried to do last year. You saw the things that we want to do this year going forward. We need more income coming in. And one of the easiest ways to do that is sponsorships. So one of the things that we want to talk about is one, how do you as members feel about a sponsorship? Feel about the, Massachusetts Wrestling Association K-4 tournament brought to you by, whoever it is. How do you feel about that? And obviously we're going to vet appropriate, appropriate sponsors, vet people that we feel like align with our needs. But how do you feel about that? Do you appreciate something like that? What are other ways for income? But so with those two things things to consider and things that we're going to vote on probably next year or even in the spring, we're going to probably have another meeting in the spring for everybody. These are two things that we want to bring up in those two meetings. We're not going to vote on them now, but we want to talk about them now. So with that, I just want to bring an open discussion to you guys, and we can start with the age group designation if we want to open up.
So the age group designation, I would say, goes well beyond just wrestling. It goes to translate to parents, right? When you're involved in any other sport, youth hockey, youth soccer, youth anything, it's not K-4 or this or that, it's age group. Wrestling is still one of the last holdouts keeping on grades. It's by age. And we should go ahead and move on to the way that the other sports actually do things to make it one less thing that separates us being different from everything else, and make it easier for the parents to understand.
Guys, with the age group, if it's not broke, why are we fixing it? It works fine how it is.
In some cases it does, but in some cases it doesn't. And so I think right now
it's worked like this for at least 20 years that I've been involved. Where's the issue then?
Has it worked well for 20 years?
Yes.
So where it does have problems is as an organization level, right? Is there's a lot more question marks as far as kids joining a tournament or getting involved in your wrestling if the designation is by grade level rather than their actual birthday, right? Because you can have a fourth grader who's however old, right? Like they fall into all sorts of different spots. And as an organization, as we're growing, we're seeing more examples of that. And we're seeing more times where kids are kind of in flux there. Whereas if we can do it based on your birthday, you are what you are. You were born on a day, that doesn't change. So as an organization, it helps a lot when we're running these tournaments as we're growing and developing.
The other thing it does do is it gives more wrestling opportunities at those different age groups. So based on where we were going, we would actually end up creating another division at the effective 5 through 8 level. You'd end up with 3 divisions there and 2 divisions at the K-4 level.
And Brad, I see your hands up. Jump on in.
Yeah. So I'm Brian Nathan, if you guys don't know me. But going back to this topic, I think it is an important topic. Some of you guys know I coach rugby and soccer full time. That's my gig. These are important issues that do need to be addressed. And I understand the concept. If it's not broken, don't fix it. But what this really does is open the floodgates to more people participating. So if there is a tournament, you might have a team that just has, a K-4 program, but not a high middle school program, or vice versa. So this allows the gateway for those people to attend tournaments that they feel that is appropriate to their program. So if we could figure out a way that this would actually implement properly, I think it's the right course to take. The question then becomes, though, is how many tournaments can we have, and is it make it more tournaments more, financially a burden or not, depending upon the cost of space and so forth. But that's just a different issue. But I think it's just the right direction to go. It's just we have to think about it a little more deeply is all.
Brad, one of the things I want to ask you, because you just brought it up and also Desi brought it up, but you have experience in other sports. One of the things you said was that it helps grow the sport, right? It helps get more people involved. How does designating 6U, 8U, 10U, 12U, 15U, how does that grow the sport outside of calling it K-4, right? Or 5, 6, 7, 8? Like, how do you see that growth?
So we see that growth basically by, you still have your regular tournament. So you'll have a K-8 tournament, but it's up to the tournament itself to establish each individual group. So you have your U6, your U8, your U10, whatever. And then it's on the club's responsibility to register each of those teams per that tournament. That's how that works. That way everyone's involved, they're not left out. They don't feel like they can't go or anything like that. It's just a matter of, it's the same problem that you would have if you had a big tournament with low numbers in one division or vice versa. But it gives the opportunity for at least a small school like someone like Faye, Eric Lane, great guy, that he can actually go to a program now. So you can say, all right, I got a strong, third, a U10 team. I'll input my U10 team for this, kryptonite tournament. That's what helps out. So as opposed to saying, well, we don't have enough kids, so we're just not going to go. That's the difference.
Go ahead, Ed.
First, let me apologize if I've interrupted anybody. My raise hand button was off screen.
I appreciate
I would like to ask Paul briefly what his objection to going with sort of the national standards is for this, or just so we see what's in there.
Because we're just overcomplicating something that doesn't need to be complicated. Everybody knows what grade they're in. They've been wrestling the same age group for the last 7-8 years.
You just said grade and age group together.
I think just kids are going to get squeezed out that have been, the older 7th graders or the younger whatever. And again, this has nothing to do with my son. He was born in January. This would actually help him. I just think it's dumb.
Okay, fair enough. Not an unreasonable position.
They're going to be wrestling freshmen when they're high school freshmen. They're going to be wrestling sophomores when they're high school sophomores. Why are we overcomplicating this?
It's not us. It is probably not the worst idea to conform to the National Organization standards of which we are a part.
98% of these kids don't go to national level tournaments.
I think it's important to include that right now that this is a USA Wrestling conversation, not an MIAA conversation. Like, let's not get things convoluted. That's all. I mean, they should be in line, but unfortunately, they're not.
I don't think this is mainly a Mass Youth Wrestling Association meeting, right? Which is the main goal should be preparing these kids for MIAA wrestling.
Yeah, and one at a time here, guys.
I agree entirely. I just wanted to make sure that everyone was on the same page. That's all. I agree, Paul. I'm on board with you. I get it, Ed. I'm on board with you too. But let's not make things mixed up. That's all.
Yeah. So, Belanger, I saw that you were trying to jump in there for a second.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good idea. I understand that there's probably no good time to do it, but I also see, kids going to private schools and getting reclassed. And I wonder if this would help, level the playing field for kids that are reclassing for athletic reasons.
I mean, the thing is, we're not, I just want to say we're not voting on anything tonight. We just want to collect a lot of information, talk to you guys, get your feel for it. And then, like I said, in the spring, it's something we'll probably bring up for next year, right? We didn't want to bring something up and say, hey, let's vote on it. So definitely keep coming with your input and keep letting us know and inform other people that this is on our docket, that this is something we're thinking about. So that's something to talk about.
Brett, can I ask a couple of questions on the under 10, under 12 classification?
Why we're here?
In the youth wrestling arena, for years we've used the grade, but if a kid was an old 4th grader, he would have to go up to the 5th and 6th grade. If he was an old 6th grader, he'd have to go up to the 7th and 8th grade. And by old kid, I'm talking about somebody that was born before September 1st. That was a cutoff date. So even though we call our tournaments grades 5 and 6, or we call them a novice and then we call them a middle school, there really has always been a birth date. And it originally was December 31st. And then back about 12 years ago, we changed it to September 1st to more or less align with the grade schools that we thought kids would be in. But it's still an age group. So when you're talking about under 10 you're talking about the day of the tournament, or are you talking about January 1st? What's your thought process?
January 1st.
So it's the calendar year. January 1st is under 12 as of January 1st.
Kiss.
So all we're doing is moving it from January 1st, but then we're creating an extra team award, if you will, because now you got under 10, you got under 12, and you got under 15, where before we just had
more brackets, more wrestling opportunities.
Those kids are wrestling anyway, Desi. I don't know why there's more opportunities there. That doesn't make any sense to me. Because there was always a 2-year deal. The only 3-year deal was the under 15.
I'll let you finish and then I'll go.
It's always been a 2-year deal from September 1st to August 31st for 2 years. And that's just how it's been. The only group that really had a 3-year window were the older 8th graders, because we always let them wrestle, even if they were, that was a 3-year grouping, which is what you got here, because you got 13, 14, and 15.
The reason why it creates more wrestling opportunities is because you increase the number of brackets. So before, you may have had a 24-man bracket where you had age groups going. Now you might end up with 2 12-man brackets where you'll have more opportunities for more kids to go further and less 2 and 0 and 2s.
I got it. Okay. I understand that.
I do just want to bring up, with the USA Wrestling, we're fortunate enough to kind of see like the trajectory and year over year. So this year, where we were from last year, which obviously was COVID, or even the year before, we're still up 112% from the previous 2 years of like current athletes. And just to put into perspective, 64% of those are brand new athletes. And so these are new kids now taking on these opportunities. And for those who maybe didn't compete in USA Wrestling events previously, they are now getting the USA Wrestling cards, start to compete in those events and travel a little bit more outside of our state, especially because we weren't offering as many opportunities in Massachusetts over the last almost 2 years. Our kids were traveling quite a bit more. And same thing with our wrestling leaders. We're up 29% from last year, and 43% of them are new leaders. So there are coaches that are phasing out, and there are people that are starting to step up and step into those roles, but there's definitely a need for more. The one thing that hasn't changed, even though we're 67% up in current clubs that are registered, and there's 15, 0 new clubs. So these are all pre-existing clubs that are coming back. And so just to kind of put some numbers out there and things into perspective of where we are this year going into the season.
I think the feedback though, and the input from people is still really important, right? Because in the end, we serve our state as a whole, right? So we need to take the feedback and need to, hear what goes on in our state. And, we are Massachusetts one way or the other.
So I think moving on, the next thing that we talked about that we as a board wanted to bring up with everybody was the sponsorships for tournaments, and to be able to actually, if there's any ideas, and realistically just fundraising ideas as a broader topic of ways that we can start bringing in funds. And I think last year you saw that, this isn't a board of directors that we're not lining our pockets with any money. We're looking to give back more and develop more opportunities. And I think a lot of the things that we brought up in this conversation, whether it be more ways to get kids trained, more referees to get trained, whether we do more and better communication with people, all these things, they do cost money at the end of the day, right? We just tried to put together a quick survey monkey for you guys, and that was going to cost us $33 a month, right? And it's like things like that, where we're trying to develop different ways to make it easier for you to communicate with us. It costs money. If we want to do something where, we want to put on tournament series, it costs money. So just different ideas. Even if you don't have one right now, if you come up with one, send us some information, let us know what you're thinking about so we can continue to bring this topic up. But the first one we just wanted to bring up with everybody is your thoughts on sponsorships for our tournament series and the state organization.
Brett, Stephen Henry again. North Andover has always gone or recently gone to Methuen for sectional tournaments the last couple of years. And I'll tell you that maybe Mike LaValle can comment on this, but they have, for their own wrestling purposes, their own club purposes, they have had several of the Merrimack Valley vendors, whether they be restaurants or other people in the Merrimack Valley, have sponsored things going on at that tournament. So there were lots of signs, there were lots of banners hung up, and I'm sure they all paid $50 or $250 or something for that deal. Now, if you're talking about the Massachusetts Wrestling Association sanctioning somebody to go out and do that, it's going to happen at like Methuen. If Methuen is the host community and their parents run out and get those sponsors, that money's going to stay with Methuen.
Yep. So we're talking, those are two separate things. So what Methuen did was their own fundraising, right? So at their own event, they did their own fundraising and they did their own sponsorships. But what we're talking about is like what you didn't see at the Methuen tournament. And Mike, I see that you're on, you can jump in whenever you want. But what you didn't see was like the Massachusetts Wrestling Association State Tournament Series is brought to you by, right? And that was not said. So two separate things. We're actually talking about the tournament series being like, just to make it simple, we're talking like Gatorade. So if Mass Wrestling Association Tournament Series brought to you by Gatorade and all of your shirts say Gatorade on them, that's what we're talking about. I see
so,
it.
what Brett's pretty much saying is this wouldn't be the sponsor, the hosts of the venue that are holding it. It would be the sponsor, the people that are putting it on, which is us, right? MWA. No, it doesn't matter if it's Methuen, Wilmington, Burlington, or wherever you want to call it. But yeah, pretty much what Brett said.
If one of the 24 of us that are listening here have a connection with Coca-Cola or Gatorade or somebody else, we should reach out and have somebody on the board contact them to see if they would be willing to sponsor that, like MetLife or somebody.
Yeah, absolutely. If someone had someone that would want to sponsor, that'd be fantastic. And realistically, I wanted to bring this up to make sure no one threw up at the idea of sponsoring, right? And having that, these are why we wanted to bring these discussions up, is to make sure that people weren't totally upset by the idea. So
I'm not upset by it.
Speak up if anyone is upset by the idea of doing that. But awesome.
Brett, I think the only point that we want to make sure we follow where we're going to be starving to find venues this year is as long as us taking on a sponsor doesn't come with any hitches where the host can't have their own sponsors of their facility or whatnot. That would be the only thing that we'd want to be careful about, because as much as we could use the funding, not turn ourselves away from possible venues.
Yeah, absolutely. That makes sense. That's a great point.
I asked NASA, they said no.
Tournament's out of this world. All right, is there any other, I don't want to keep you guys forever. Is there any other comments, ideas, open discussion, anything else you guys want to bring up today? Nothing. Fantastic. All right. This meeting has been recorded. I will put it together for you guys. What I'm thinking about doing is doing a long tournament or a long meeting and then breaking up each section as well, so you can share those out. But thank you all, the 24 of you that have joined us. I think there was a couple others that were on there, but we bored them to death. So, but thank you guys all so much for joining and being a part of this. again, we want to open up more conversations with everybody. We have a lot of ideas. We need help. We need volunteers. If you haven't signed up for your USA Wrestling ID or your membership, or you haven't gotten your club registered yet, like, get on that. Make sure that we do that. Remember, as you're talking to your other coaches, your friends, your peers around you, make sure that they have their USA Wrestling stuff as well. It helps the programs. Like Bjor pointed out, it's insurance for your program. It's a great way to do that. And then just stay in contact with us, communicate with us, board@USAWMWA.org. And just make sure that you're contacting us with any ideas, thoughts, and please just get involved. Help us out. So thank you guys so much. And we will see you all later.
Fill out the attendance form and also volunteer to be a board member.